Hello and welcome to the Drumwell Podcast, where we talk to drummers about what they do away from the kit in order to do their very best behind the kit. And today I have a fantastic guest. He plays drums in tech death band from New Zealand, Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. He's also a content creator and has a great channel on both Instagram and Facebook under Coota Drums. I've been following for a little while. And he's also a teacher. Please welcome Anthony Coota.
Hey, cheers. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's we've actually been chatting a little bit in the last couple of months. You shot me a message after I cut my hair off and also said you enjoyed the podcast. And I'd actually been following your drum channel a little bit just because, you know, the reels come up and it's like, oh, there's Anthony again. We're friends on Facebook, obviously, and then I just see a lot of your drummer page come up a bit as well, and I thought, shit, if you like the pod, come on it.
Why not?
Here we are.
Yeah,
excellent.
Man, you've had some awesome people on the podcast, so just such a pleasure to be on here and join the amazing lineup of other drummers who have been on this podcast, man. So yeah, it's really cool, and I think the awareness you're spreading about what it takes to, you know, maintain your mental and physical health away from the drum kit is a huge factor for all musicians. So it's really important, and I'm glad that we're highlighting that today.
Yeah, it's something that it's really based off of my own sort of personal journey. I think anyone that's listened to the previous episodes would know that I had a back issue, which was affecting my drumming because, you know, we rely so heavily on our sort of center of gravity in our core, and lower back is a big part of your core. And yeah, just doing what I had to do to fix that, because I put up with it for about a year and it wasn't getting any better with anything I did. So doing that, and then I just sort of thought, you know, I was talking to a lot of drummers just in general conversation about it, and then I thought, shit, why don't I just get a couple of microphones and hit record on these conversations, because this could actually help other people. So, and that's where the Drumwell Podcast was born, Drummer Wellness.
Beautiful. What a good time for it too. I think, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, the age of rock and roll, sex, drugs and rock and roll is not what it used to be. And I think there's a lot more focus and awareness around health and mental health and, you know, maintaining the certain mental posture and mental poise in order to, you know, get up and gig night after night and deal with that rock star, you know, metal star lifestyle, which actually can be pretty punishing.
It definitely can. It is taxing on the body. So if we can make our bodies more resilient for it, then that's a win, right?
Massive win.
You know? And I've just been right into it. I actually just I'm almost completed a nutritional therapy course as well, just to keep expanding on my knowledge. So
what's up? That's awesome.
Because that all helps too. Like I was really watching sort of foods that I eat, and certain things make me tired. I'd get blood tests at my GP and found out that my body likes to absorb iron more so than others. So that means, you know, cut back on, I don't need to supplement vitamin C. I get enough in my food, and I don't need to eat red meat. Like, I love red meat, but I don't need to eat it very often at all. So, because I produce enough iron where I don't really need that, whereas some people do. So that's all been very interesting. But that really leads me into our first talking point. What do you do away from the kit in order to keep your body primed to do what you do behind the kit? So sort of diet, exercise, anything special? What's your sort of daily or weekly routine around that?
Well, currently, actually, I've been working a lot. There's a lot of other things going on in my life currently. So I haven't been you know, training at the gym. I actually haven't been to the gym for about a year now. Just so many things going on. But I think the things that are best for my drumming abilities in terms of routine and body. Number one is getting good sleep. I actually used to, being 26, like to go out
Yep.
and party and drink a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
having had more responsibility over the past year, actually laying off that stuff helps you so dramatically. Although I would never really get hangovers and, have this kind of, or drink a lot that much
Yep.
either, mind you. Just having like a good sleep pattern helps so much, I find, and that's a real basic thing. Um, like I mentioned, actually not going to the gym has helped my drumming.
Yep.
I find it quite hard to put weight on. I've been the same weight for quite a few years now. And that's probably because of how much drumming I'm doing. And I noticed that when I was going to the gym, what I was actually doing was I was actually tensing all of my muscles that I was working. And it
Yep.
actually made it harder to play. I wasn't as relaxed. And I actually stopped, as an example, particularly training arms because I found when I would, do a couple bicep curls, I'd gain weight in my arms, and then it would actually make me slower when it came to doing fills around the kit.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah, I actually find that there's a really good Instagram page. I think it's called Drummer Mechanics, I
Drummer
believe.
mechanics. I'm going to
I
write that
think,
down.
yeah, write it down. Basically, this guy, I may have his name wrong. Definitely write it down. His page is all centered around the body, physical movement applied to the drum kit, and his
Yep.
you know synthesis of information is so dexterous and detailed. It really shows so many examples of how actually some exercises, as an example, doing the old wrist pullback, on the drums, like one of these
Mm.
movements here when you get, your left hand and put it on your right fingertips and push your wrist back. Stretches like this
Yep.
are actually not good for drumming, and they
Right.
actually stretch the muscles out too much. So I've actually laid off of all of these things that I was doing post and pre gig workouts and all of that to hype myself up, as I was actually causing more damage to my body in the long run. So I've got a big
Mm.
focus on actually things I'm trying not to do more than things I try to do. So along with sleeping, and maintaining a good like life healthy balance, partying balance as well. It's actually, I
Yep.
think, a good focus on things to not be too hyper concerned or hyper aware about, i.e., working out as much or doing so many stretches, or for some people, warming up for an hour is totally necessary. And I find that an hour of warm up, and I'm like, I've sort of lost a little bit of my power. I prefer to jump in just a little
Mm.
bit cold, get a little bit of that
Yep.
adrenaline going. And yeah, so there's some things that I do, focusing on my sleep, focusing on, having a balanced diet, trying to eat at least 2 hours before I hit the drums, just so there's some
Mm.
energy in the tank. And then if I do drum for 2 hours, have a break, eat something, because I can definitely just get lost into it and be like, I'll come back
Yeah.
and eat. I'm working on this right now. That's a big thing that I try to do. But yeah, there are a few things that I try to do away from the kit. What about you? And especially considering the back scenario, previously you just mentioned that you're riding your bike to the rehearsal space. Is that a practice that you have
Yeah.
implemented to, strengthen your back and for the drums?
Well, yeah, definitely. Obviously, bike riding, because I used to run a lot, and with the back, it became a bit difficult to run. It became a bit. The running itself was fine. It was the post run when I'd cool down and my back would start feeling a bit sore. It was because basically what I had was a degenerated disc L5S1, and so the bones were actually touching
Yeah.
and causing inflammation. So for me, that was all right. I needed to do a lot of. I did an episode. The last episode I did, I just did on a little bit of that drummer mechanics stuff. Basically, a couple of moves that really everyone should do, to be honest. Which is like hip hinging and squats. So deadlifts and squats is basically it builds up all those erectae spinae muscles, which line each side of your spine. It strengthens all those, and that's what I needed to fix because it builds more capacity, which then the muscles are strong, so then the back itself is stronger. And I've also gone and really gone into eating a lot less inflammatory type foods, so I have a lot less inflammation in my body overall. But also, I mean, I'm 42. When I was 26, I didn't get hangovers either, and I could party, and I could eat what I want, and I could play drums, and I could not warm up. But I think it's something that if I'd have known, because I had a chat to Dave Haley a few episodes ago, and he and I have been pretty good mates for a lot of years, and we're about the same age, and both of us sort of were talking about. It was probably in our sort of mid to late 20s we sort of really started the concept of actually warming up. It's interesting you say about those stretches because that's something I actually do. I actually will do either pad work or just some stick work and really get a burn in my forearms, and then I'll stretch them out. I don't really hold the stretches so much. I just sort of do a little bit of that and that. But very interesting you said that, because that does happen. You can overstretch your body. Something I learned in this, I did this functional movement training course, which I swear by. I was actually recommended that by a neurosurgeon. It was either that or let my back get worse and then get some sort of surgery and probably potentially never play drums again, really.
Wow.
Which is not what I wanted. I didn't really want any surgery. I didn't want the surgery, the cortisone. I wanted to fix it naturally. And luckily for me, I have got I've got a good friend that's a myotherapist, also a drummer,
right?
Who he was a concreter or a brickie or something for years and destroyed his whole back. So he studied myotherapy to fix it, and now he's stronger than ever.
Wow!
And he said to me, well before I ever started the functional movement course, well before I ever had a back issue, that he goes, "Oh yeah, deadlifts and squats fix your back." And I was like, "Oh yeah, cool." And then when my back problem started, and then when I went through all the process and found, oh well, that's exactly it. Deadlifts and squats. That's what they taught me. So yeah, that's something I definitely need to do. And I work out 6 days a week, but I don't do it. I don't over exercise. And this same guy, Pabs is his name. Actually, because he gives you movements and stuff to do when I go for a treatment, but he actually, when I was telling him my sort of workout routine, because I don't do leg day and arm day and bloody this and that, and I always do deadlifts and squats in my workouts. I take 1 day off a week, but I still do hip hinges and I still do some squats on those days off. I just do it every day now. It's a habit.
Yeah.
And it just makes my back feel good.
Yeah.
So that was really that's the thing. But yeah, biking, that's sort of my cardio now. Although in saying that, I think my back is probably good enough where I could run again.
Have you tried?
I just haven't. I haven't tried it, but I think I could.
Yeah.
Because I can run across the street or without it hurting, or I can, if I'm at work and I'm busy, I can run down the warehouse and it's fine. So. But yeah, definitely biking is good cardio for me, and my diet, I'm quite strict with it. I'm not super strict. I'll still have a treat here and there. I really try to stick to a fairly low inflammatory diet. Things like for breakfast, I eat eggs with vegetables rather than toast or cereal, because ultimately the sugar rush you get from a slice of bread or from say even fruit in the morning, I don't do that. I'll eat eggs with mushrooms and broccoli and spinach and stuff like that, where it keeps you fuller for longer, and it also doesn't give you a sugar rush. If anything, it's given you a really good rush of antioxidants and nutrients. And And then if I have any, I'll eat fruit, but like berries and fruits and stuff, but I'll do that a bit later on in the day. Yeah, when my body's already fired up and moving. And yeah, so that's just a couple of things I sort of do.
That's awesome. I feel like, to connect with you on that level, this past year for me has been an interesting one, having just finished uni and coming out of studying and into working a lot more. Mind you, I was already working a job or two whilst at uni, and I've picked up another one or another 2 days of work, whatever it is. So it's interesting like that. This year, I feel like have taken a large break off of being super conscious about how much food what kind of foods I'm taking in, whether they're, inflammatory, or certain foods that I find actually give me a bit of brain fog, for sure. Um, I actually have not been as conscious of those things as I have been previously. And to be fairly honest, perhaps it is an age thing, but I am feeling not as affected by it as perhaps I used to. I've had a few different dietary trends in my time. I went vegetarian, I went vegan, and then I did vegan organic. And that was really cool to see the change of not consuming any pesticides, which is a very interesting effect on your brain, because you definitely feel the mental clarity from not consuming, bovine growth hormone, or Monsanto, what's it called? Spray. I can't remember the Roundup Ready. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Anyway, having experimented with my diet and physical exercise, perhaps it is due to my age that I'm not finding as much of a consequential reaction to my diet and to those things, that I'm still able to sort of go through. I'm finding the best thing that's serving me currently is just the consistency, making sure I'm getting 3 meals a day. And I like what you were saying as well, compound movements for workouts. I think that there's only, 3 or 4 compound movements: deadlift, squat, bench press, and is there one more? Or is there only 3?
No idea. I actually don't do bench press anymore. If I do any kind of bench work, I'll use dumbbells now, and rather than a bar, because it's more catered for each arm, rather than like both arms trying to push the same thing, because hey, one arm might be doing more of the work. So it's really catering to individual limbs rather than. However, obviously a squat, yeah, that's a compound movement, and one leg might be overcompensating.
For sure.
I do a lot of rowing as well. We've got a rowing machine. I've got a little home gym set up, and that's been really good. But yeah, and I also try to do these sort of movements. There's one called a rocking push-up, where you sort of get in a push-up position, then you rock back, and then you rock forward into the push-up. It's
okay.
It's kind of hard to explain. I mean,
you sort of get it. You push up and then you push back, roll back.
Yeah, and you keep your arms sort of straight and in the back, but you bend your knees, and then you straighten your legs and you bend your arms into the push-up, and that's like a full body movement. That gets your whole sort of posterior chain lubed up, and so I'm all about lubing the posterior chain before I work out and before I drum.
Yeah.
Which so I use like stretchy resistance bands to do that. I take those on the road with me as well. That's super important. That's part of my warm up now. I used to always just mainly do rudiments for my warm up. Just hit the sticks, tap my legs, do a lot of rudiments. I don't even really use rudiments when I play. I'm a single stroke guy for the most part, because I mostly play blast beats and thrash and grindcore, and a lot of my fills are kind of single stroke stuff. But I've always learnt, as far as speed building exercises and stuff many years ago, that rudiments to a click is the go. So I'll do rudiments on my feet, I'll do rudiments with my hands, mostly paradiddles. They're easy, double strokes, paradiddles, easy ones to remember. I don't have to think, it's just automatic. And so I'll sort of do those sorts of things as my warming up. Not that I use them in any songs, really.
Yeah, fair
So,
enough.
yeah. But a lot of my warm-ups now are with the stretchy bands. And for a while I was doing 7-minute workouts, which was sort of 12 different exercises, bodyweight exercises for 30 seconds each.
Yep.
Sort of like push-ups, jumping jacks, squats, step-ups. I can't remember all of them, but I did that for a long time. But then obviously as I've evolved certain movements, I can do everything now. My back is pretty fixed, but ultimately there's certain things that I learned that I don't do because I don't want to twist if I don't have to. It's one of those things where if I drop my pen on the floor, I can twist around and pick it up. But if I do that 100 times, I might hurt my back.
Yeah.
So even with the way I set up my drums now, where I tightened it up a bit, I was running 2 floor toms, but I'm back to 1 because the second one was just a little bit too far of a twist. So, and everything's just like, I'll just sit there dead straight and everything, I can just hit everything. Like I could probably play with my eyes shut realistically the way I set up now and still hit everything.
That range of motion.
Ergonomics.
It's so important, man. And I hear you on the 1 floor tom thing. That it's so good just to be able to have that one there. I do like having 2 floor toms, don't get me wrong, but I've actually picked up a 3rd rack tom. Having the 3 up front is so much better. I think there's a lot of knowledge within the drum community surrounding good ergonomics. And once again, that drummer mechanics guy is quite onto it. Even old mate Danny Carey's onto it. His kit is very centralized. And that was always a pretty big inspiration for me musically, but also setting up the kit. Like he's got everything in front of him. For the most part, he's got a lot of things on the side as well. But it always felt quite natural having the 2 crashes coming straight in arm's reach. It makes actually a lot of sense. But it's interesting you say that movement with the if you could reach down and grab a pen, swiveling your lower back there and turning, you don't want to do that as much as you can. As much as like I mentioned previously, as much as I find there's a lot of things that you can do for your drumming, whether it's eating less inflammatory food, or on tour, one thing I like to do is I like to have creatine and magnesium supplements.
Magnesium is very important.
Magnesium's awesome, man. Just all of those cramps, forget about them. And the creatine is really good. Creatine monohydrate is great for storing that moisture. And being of, European descent, I get very sweaty when I play the drums. So I need to retain as much moisture as I can.
Yeah.
But, just on the note of the pen, I think it's there's a lot of things that we got to try to not do. Almost as much as things that we should be doing in order to benefit the drums, and actually opening up that space, being like, I'm not going to have a 2nd floor tom. Or for me, actually, I really like to have my ride a bit lower because I've had, I broke my collarbone. So it's a bit of, it's good movement now. It was quite a few years ago, but actually just adjusting to having everything just a touch lower on the right-hand side makes it so much easier. Makes it, a process where it's like I'm not fighting against myself. I'm working with myself within the confines of the body.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that is actually pretty good. We might actually jump into that because that's one of my talking points here is injuries. Whether it was drum related or just any that have impacted your playing. You just mentioned your collarbone. What did you do to overcome that?
I'll be heaps honest with you, man. I broke it skating. I was 18, and basically the doctor said when I went into hospital, he said, you can let it just sit like the bone had just fallen on top of the other one and just let it fuse. It will take a while and it will probably not be good. It probably won't heal that great considering the break. And he suggested the surgery. And like we sort of mentioned, I was actually not pro surgery. I was like, I don't want to have this
Yeah.
metal bar in my, I'm not about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's heavily suggested it due to the way the break was. So I ended up doing it. And being young, I actually, a day after the surgery, I had an endone and just got on the drum kit. Couldn't feel anything, felt incredible. Good to
Yeah.
go back on. I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait. But
Yeah.
that's one thing. And actually, I found that for me with this injury, not wearing a heavy backpack is actually really important. Keeping the
Mm-hmm.
shoulder muscles relaxed, like
Yep.
once again, doing less,
Yeah. Yeah.
is
Yeah.
actually really important because when you are traveling, there's a lot of shit to carry. Being a drummer, I didn't think about
Mm.
how much shit there was to carry. So that's one thing I have to be mindful of. And once again, I said like setting the kit up in a regard where maybe, yeah, the crashes are slightly coming a bit lower on the right hand side just for that ease. And I also find actually having an X hat, I actually have a stack on the right hand side,
Yep.
right hand side. That is such a savior because it's low, and I feel like that posture of having left hand on the snare drum, right hand on the stack is so much more natural than cross-armed. The
Crossing over.
old,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
these kinds of things, yeah, you got to work with. The only other injury I've really had was I broke my wrist,
Mm-hmm.
or like fractured my wrist in year 8 at school.
Yep.
And look, now I can like it clicks. Like I don't know if you can see it, but
I actually heard a little click there when you did that. I wonder if we'll get that in the audio of the
I
pod.
wonder. I wonder. But that's
Yeah.
one thing I've got to be mindful of too.
Yep.
The muscles in my right wrist actually can become quite tense due to, or previously due to bad technique. And
Mm.
when I'm, blasting on the ride, really holding onto my stick, losing my fulcrum and just holding on for dear life. And yeah, that is something that I actually have to really be mindful of as well. Um, which
Right.
are, which are a few things I've implemented. Actually, using bigger sticks has helped. I find that if you
Mm-hmm.
have 2Bs or what size are you running?
I run 3As, which is basically they're a bit longer than a 5A, and they're about the thickness of between a 5A and a 5B.
Yep.
And I run a 3A wood tip, Vic Firth 3A woods.
Awesome.
Because I always found with the nylon tips, they sound really cool on the cymbals, but I would lose the tip. The way I play, it's like
Like rock.
I hit pretty much the same velocity every hit. I sort of worked out this thing many years ago where if I could hit the drum every time as hard as my fastest blast, if that makes sense. So, when you blast, it sort of tends to get a bit quieter. So I
Yep.
really worked on getting like good power behind the speed and then going, all right, what's the velocity behind that hit? And I need to hit that every time. Because, you might go into a groovy bit and you're swinging around and you just, you're throwing your arms around and your stick's hitting really hard. So I can still throw my arms around, but I'm always really conscious of like when I bring that stick down, it's got to be the same velocity as the softest hit, which would be my fastest blast beat.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's something I really, really worked a lot on.
Yep. Derek Roddy
Which
talks a bit about that, just about being
right,
a dynamic drummer. Like
mm,
actually, I think he calls it just being an EQ'd drummer. Like you've EQ'd yourself, or you've compressed
yeah,
yourself. All the strokes are at a similar volume, and it really
yeah.
maintains that extremity from the blast.
Well, that was it. That was because I've seen a lot of sort of metal drummers and like it must be hell for the sound guy because they're kind of trying to adjust. It's like they'll go into a slower bit and it's just like slam, slam, slam. And then they go to a blast. It's like you can't hear the snare. So I thought, shit, I don't want to be like that. And I've actually have had several compliments from sound guys on that particular technique, and I've told them, and they're like, "Oh, that's really interesting. I wish other drummers did that." I'm like, "Well, I'm sure other drummers do." But it's just something I sort of was conscious of and worked on purely because that's the style I play. Now, not to say that if I'm trying to do little ghost notes or anything, which I don't generally do, but there's a little bit here and there. It's certainly I can change up the velocity for that. It doesn't matter if it's a little softer or harder. I'm not trying to hit the same. I'm not trying to be like a mechanical with it all, but just in general, that's something I've really worked on, was just trying to keep that same velocity in my hits as my softest hit.
Yeah.
So I never hit any harder than I would at top speed.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. A little thing I just thought of with your wrist. Someone taught me a long time ago, because I've never had like major wrist problems. I actually fractured my left arm back in 1991, the year I started playing drums. I actually fractured my left arm. Never really. It was a green stick fracture. It was nothing. It cast for 4 weeks. It was probably healed in 2.
Yeah.
But someone actually told me a good thing for wrist strength you can do while you're like watching telly or whatever is you lean your wrist on the edge of the armrest of the couch and get like a small light weight.
Yeah.
And hold it like this way vertically. If you can see on the camera, all the people at home, this is audio, so you won't be able to see it, but you have your wrist hanging off the edge of you lean your arm on there, have like a light weight, like a 1 or 2 kilo weight, and just do this.
Yeah.
Give it that range of motion. Then you can do it this way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And that actually, all the little tiny muscles in around your wrist, it just activates them and probably strengthens them. And I actually found, because I actually get little, I've got it on this hand, I got a little, I guess it's sort of like a ganglion or something. It's a little lump.
Okay. Yeah, I see it.
Doesn't really cause me too many issues, but I definitely try to keep my wrist movement quite active as well, in order to, because I use with my stick, my fulcrum is always that, and then I'm very loose on the fingers.
Yeah.
But I use a lot of wrist and fingers.
Yeah.
So that's how I get which means, all right, maybe I can't blast as quickly as I used to when I just used fingers, but a little bit of wrists and fingers I found for me. All right, so I might lose a few BPMs, but I'm not really playing anything that's like uncomfortable where I can't keep up anymore either. Like with the Berserker, I had to do that, but I also used a triggered snare because we had a snare sample in that band. But yeah, that's just a little thing as you're talking about wrist.
To balance that out, man, I found, because like I mentioned, there was quite a few years there where I was going to the gym and doing quite a few of these wrist exercises, which actually they do a lot in cricket practice. My stepdad used to be a good cricketer back in the day, and he actually showed me a few of the wrist exercises they did for bowling to get that whip, that flip of the wrist.
Yeah.
And I found, although it did strengthen my wrist during the period of recovery, those years, but I find actually if I put to doing these stretches, it actually
overextending.
It overextends it, and you're right. Just that general radius is quite easy. It's very natural to work in and build that those muscles there. However, I found putting too much strain on it actually would tighten this muscle up in here. And I remember having one student many years ago, and he told me he had carpal tunnel, and to touch his the inside of his wrist just below his hand on the crease there, right at the bottom, and I couldn't believe how tense his was. And
Wow.
I never want to touch mine and feel that tension. I'm glad they feel like jelly right now, and that's the thing I try to maintain. Try to maintain that real, just relaxed posture. And that's one thing I'm finding. Like currently, it's doing, not doing. What is it that I can just relax my body into? Same with the blasting as well. Yeah. That's really incredible, though, with your dynamic drumming. I definitely feel like I need to. I think I need to do some more touring, actually, because I feel like when you are in so many venues and you are in so many places, you get accustomed to the sound of the room.
Yep.
And although I do make a lot of content, that's one thing I'm always dreaming of, actually having a room with a hard ceiling or a wooden floor, because I'd love to actually spend some more time on a kit that actually sings. My room, my studio is all soundproof. There's rugs on the floor. The
Yep.
ceiling has foam boards on it. So a lot of the sound gets absorbed, which sounds great.
Mm.
It's very easy to record because there's not as much reverb. However, it actually makes it a little bit harder to recognize when your velocity and your dynamics are perhaps, not being looked at. So that's what I find. I'd
Right.
love to a hard room.
Yeah. So actually, the studio I'm set up in at home here in Brisbane. My kit's obviously set up on a mat so it doesn't slide around, but it is a wooden floor, and it's sort of gyprock walls, but they're full of soundproof. But it's a pro-built studio.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does definitely have a slightly different sound. I've got a few videos from over the years in that particular room. I'm not too sure. I've never actually really thought of it that way as far as sound. But yeah, you can definitely tell when you're in a really dead room versus a really sort of live room. Yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
it used to
Interesting.
hit me quite hard because last year I finished my Bachelor's of Jazz. I studied jazz at the Conservatorium of Music in Adelaide, and
Yep.
once every Thursday they would have this thing called the Forum, where basically three bands, uni bands, would get up and perform their standards,
Yep.
and it was always such a pet peeve of mine that we had to practice in these small, heavily acoustically treated rooms with all this that acoustic foam on the walls, which is awesome. It's great. You're housing hundreds of students. You need a quiet practice space, I understand. But actually, I found that every Thursday when, I or another student would go and perform, it's actually such a miscalculation playing in a room that is so acoustically treated, because then
Mm.
you get into the room and you realize, wow, like I actually really have to be spending more time in a room that the sound waves are bouncing everywhere and it's very open, and actually get the feel of how to control the drum kit in an uncontrolled acoustic environment, as opposed to controlling a drum kit in a super acoustically controlled environment. Real big
Yeah.
reflection of your playing in those environments, I find.
Yeah. Now, this just as you were saying that, it just made me think of I've played in some venues where the sort of the drum area where you set up, whether it's on a riser or whatever, it almost sounds like you're in a box. Like the way that
Yeah.
they've treated the stage or the room or whatever. It's like, wow, this is weird. So yeah, definitely you definitely do have to consider that, especially on tour. And something else I want to say, which you'll find when you are touring more and you're in a different venue every day and stuff like that, is as far as like where you can warm up. Sometimes you don't even have a back room. You got to just find somewhere to do it. Like I've done workouts in like car parks, and it's in the dirt, and just it's like, well, I have to do it. I've got to warm up, so you just make do. You make it work wherever you are. Or I've done things where I can't actually do everything I would normally do because I don't have the space. So I just
Got to
adjust
improvise.
it. Yeah. But you always make it work.
Yeah, you
So
have
that's something that does come along with a bit more extensive touring.
for
Um,
sure.
yes, definitely.
For sure.
We've sort of talked a little bit about warm ups, and I know you put a video out about a week or two ago about your warm up routine.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk us through that quickly?
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I'd love to. And I'd love to talk about something that I've done recently and will do again to continue to develop that. And it touches on what we were saying about rudiments previously.
Mm.
So thank God for the internet. I actually went ahead and did what I think that every drummer should really do. And this might be a really dumb point, but investing money not into just gear but into education around the drums, I think, is probably the most important thing I have missed in my 16 years of playing drums. You know,
Mm.
I've read a couple books, and like when I say read a couple of books, I mean I've skimmed through a couple of books. I'm not going to
Yep.
lie to myself,
Yeah.
but actually, when I have gone and picked up and learned an exercise from a book, you'll be surprised how many leaps and bounds you grow. So, on the note of
Mm.
purchasing drum education, I went over to Alex Rudinger, awesome drummer, to his
I know
website.
Alex. Yeah. Yep.
Incredible guy, and I
He's
purchased.
cool.
He seems really cool. I've only spoken to him through email, but he's and obviously seen all of his videos and a lot of interviews. He seems like a very genuine human being, and I'd love to even in his. So I purchased all of his. He's got a hand, a foot, and a warm up routine, and essentially
Yep.
I dived into that, all three of them, and took apart the best things that I found and sort of compiled them into my own warm up routine. Thank God
Mm-hmm.
no one owns single strokes at 165 beats a minute. Otherwise, I'd have a copyright complaint on my hands. But, so that's essentially what I did. So in that warm up routine, I spent, I think, about a month just figuring out what actually are the key points here. A lot of his work is based around endurance in those warm up videos. So I definitely suggest that people go and purchase them or look at them however they can. And see the full content that he puts out there, because I've only taken the bits which I find I can squeeze into a 45-minute warm-up to do once in the morning before I go to school or before I go to the studio. But basically, that warm-up pretty much consists of paradiddles, single stroke rolls, unisons, and increasing the tempo and holding tempos for about 5 minutes at the maximum. And
Right.
I made in the final section, there's three sections. In the third section, there's a couple repetitious patterns there, which is just all about endurance. And I love that Alex preaches endurance as much as he does in his, routine videos, because it's something that I feel, once again, in drum education, nobody is actually, I don't know if you've ever gotten a drum lesson from someone to do with metal. Maybe you were already quite well versed
Plenty.
in. You've had a few.
Yeah. I've had
I
plenty. Yeah.
I've had a few, and you always, like, when I was younger, people would be like, and do that for 5 minutes, and you'd be like, song doesn't even go
Yeah.
for 5 minutes. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
I need to go 260 for 31 seconds. Like, that's all I need. But actually, surpassing and superseding that has made me so much of a better drummer. And I find that warm up routine is doing my body and my mind, especially the communication between hands and feet, and the whole, singular voice that the body needs to be when sitting on the modality of rhythm that is the drums. You know, having that practice routine really gets everything communicating. And I find that practice, single strokes, paradiddles, doing 30 seconds of fills, 16th notes at 222 beats a minute. It's
Mm-hmm.
for, three repetitions. It's painful. It's painful because, like, when are you going to go, 30-second fills just don't happen unless you're George Colias and we're all hanging out for a 30-second fill,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So it's doing those endurance exercises, which has definitely made my playing a lot more cleaner and just made me listen to myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know your body best, which is something that I sort of preach a fair bit. Sounds a lot like Alex is great. I actually played some gigs with him when he was in the Faceless, so I did get to pick his
Jealous.
brain a bit and talk shop a little bit with him, and so that was
Oh,
very cool.
I'm very
Uh,
jealous.
but sounds very similar. I'm not sure if you've heard of Flo Mornier of Cryptopsy.
Absolutely.
So before the internet was really popular, but you can actually find all this on YouTube now. He had a DVD out called Extreme Metal Drumming 101, I'm pretty sure it was called. And that I bought that DVD and that changed everything for me. It changed. And I bought that when I was, early 20s. And I was really trying to get into more extreme metal. I was playing heavy metal, obviously, but this changed the way I set up my drums. It changed the way I practiced. A lot of it was ergonomics around, angles of your legs, angles of how you set up your snare, how you set up your cymbals, and also rudiments to a click for speed building.
Oh
And
yeah.
it very sounds very similar to. I haven't actually checked out any of Alex's programs. I watch a lot of his videos, but I haven't actually checked out any of his programs. But yeah, sounds very similar to Flow. So, and you can actually find that on YouTube. Just Flow Mornier Extreme Metal Drumming 101. It's a really good watch. But yeah, that really helped.
I'll definitely
I
go.
actually
Sorry, you go.
no, I actually revisited that not long ago purely because I wanted to just refresh it in my memory. And after all my changes with, I changed a lot of stuff around when I was trying to fix my back, and revisited that, and it was just as informative as it was the first time I saw it. So
It's so important to go and revisit quote unquote old information, because I find that even your awareness right now, where you are at in your drumming journey, will allow you to perceive certain things that you wouldn't have perceived when you were 26. And
no,
I find, like, I actually watched Flo Monur's video. He's got an hour-long thing on Drumeo.
oh
I
yeah,
am like, I feel like my brain is just turned on for the first time in my whole life,
yeah,
because we've got, like, that is such an incredible encyclopedia of drum interview and knowledge, man. The fact that you've got, and this is a little thing that I've been doing as of late, you know, and if anyone listens to this podcast at this particular point, my question to you would be, do you have a favorite drummer? And if you could spend an hour with this person, let's say whoever it is, have a look, find there's probably a Drumeo lesson with him for an
yeah,
hour. Like, that's an hour free lesson. Like, imagine calling up, and this is what I'm going to talk about, Thomas Pridgeon, and being like, hey man, can I hang out with you for an hour and let's chat, and you're going to tell me some things and I'm going to, learn something from the greats. And
yeah,
I've recently been doing that, working that into my time away from the kit. Bro, grabbing a packet of chips, whatever you want
yeah.
to have, inflammatory chips, whatever you may like, veggie
Cup of
crisps,
tea,
cup
cup of
of
green
tea,
tea.
and dude, hang out with Keith Carlock for an hour, and he wants to show
Yeah,
you some shit, and actually, like, spend that time with him. And whatever they say, actually go and do it for 20 minutes, for 5 minutes, if that's all you can handle. I've been doing that a lot recently, and I feel like it might be like a bit of a loner thing, but like, I've actually been spending time with these professional drummers, learning from them, actually applying the knowledge. And
yeah, yeah,
like I
yeah.
was saying, spending that time watching the Thomas Pridgeon videos, it so happened that he had some time off. So I recently had a lesson with him on Skype, and I've got another
Yep.
one coming up. And man, I tell you what, there's one thing that I've massively found about being a drummer. There's two different kinds of drummers in this world. There's, in my opinion, that's what I'm experiencing currently. There's drummers
Yep.
who are drummers in bands who are really good at holding the groove, serving the music, which is great, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But then there's drummers who are masters of rhythm and
Mm-hmm.
the body, which is the tool for expressing rhythm.
Yep.
I feel like in my generation, content creators, we're all focusing on being drummers in a band, which is awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to actually spending the money, spending the time and paying the attention, and having a lesson with someone such as yourself or someone like Thomas Pridgeon, and having him be like, which he did in the lesson, he's like, all right, we're gonna do paradiddle diddles, and you're just gonna play this kick pattern at the same time. And
Yep.
like, just being very honest, I froze. I couldn't do it. Like, I just sucked at it, because paradiddle diddles is something I haven't worked on. Mind you, that was on Tuesday. Today's Friday. Or yesterday was Thursday, and I did the homework that I failed in the video. Honestly, actually spent the time, paid the time. Sorry, yeah, spent the time, paid the attention. I'm big on that phrase, and
Yep.
yeah, felt confident enough to go and not waste his or my own time and book in the next lesson and actually commit to making that change. Yeah,
That's
seeing that.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
he's amazing.
it's something you should, if you're going to invest the time and the money, then you got to do the homework. I'll give you a little story there. I got that Flo Mornia DVD in, I think, 2004.
Yep.
And I watched it religiously for a long time and really applied everything I learned, all the knowledge. I really applied it. And I was living in Canada in 2011, 2012, and I actually went and got a lesson with him.
There you go.
And it was funny because I sat down on his kit in his house, and he goes, "Oh, well, you just sit down, just play something for me. I just want to watch you play." And I sat down and just played some stuff, and he goes, "Well, your technique is absolutely perfect." And I went, "Thanks, man. I basically just copied you." And we had a bit of a laugh, and then he gave me a whole bunch of other stuff to work on. But yeah, that's very true. If you're going to invest in yourself, in your drumming, in your time, you want to actually do the work as well. So yeah,
absolutely,
definitely.
bro. The latest drum gear will only get you so far, and as some random Facebook commenter said on a post I put in the Metal Drummer Nerds forum, he goes,
Yep.
"Bro, like I was looking at an upgrade for my pedals," and he goes, "Sounds like to me you're chasing the last 5%." He had a look at my page. He's like, "You've 95% of the work you're doing already. You're just chasing that last 5%, and the gear doesn't rarely gets you there. Rarely."
Yeah, realistically, you should be able to replicate what you do on a $20,000 kit on a $100 kit.
Yes.
Realistically, you should be able to. So, like, let's say you go, like, I've played some shows in Asia, like Japan's a different story. They've got nice gear, but I mean, some places don't. But a lot of the time, they don't own their own gear. It's just that it's in the studio and it's in the venue, and you just play whatever. Yeah. And I've played some really nice stuff, and I've played some atrocious stuff. But you make it work, and if you can do that, then you're definitely there. But no one's ever going to be 100%. Like we might chase perfection in life, but it's impossible. Nothing's ever perfect.
Totally.
So it's all about getting that 1% better every day, every time that with whatever you do.
With whatever.
Every time you get behind the kit, if you can get 1% better, you're doing something right,
Yeah, acing it, bro. And that's what they say. They say that in the top 18% of people in the world, you're practicing 20 minutes a day. You think about that, like a 20-minute episode of The Simpsons. I don't know what people watch. I don't watch TV. A 20-minute Netflix episode is that long. If you spent that long, one episode worth of Netflix on your given craft, you would be in the top 18% of the world. That's nuts. That's fucking nuts.
It is. I mean, I'm certainly guilty of. I don't even pick up a pair of sticks every day. I practice like weekly, probably a couple of times a week. But I no longer live in I used to live above the studio where my kit's set up, but now I no longer do. I have to actually physically go to the studio to practice. What I did recently do was bring some sticks home, and I dug out a syncopation book because I thought, gee, I haven't looked at syncopation since I was a kid.
Ted Reed?
Yeah.
I'm doing he's also got my students now.
Yeah, they're the books. Ted Reed, yep. The rudiments, the syncopation. Yeah, I pulled that out and went, I'm going to start doing that. I've also gotten back into piano because that was the first instrument I learned, and that's just rhythm, melody, everything. It also you're using all your fingers, you're using your feet, so it's kind of gets you thinking. And you can probably see it in the background there. People at home that can't see where my Ninja Turtle's sitting, that's my piano right there, my childhood piano.
Yes, and is that Donatello?
That's Michelangelo, and I've got a Raphael on the other side. Yeah.
Nice. Turtle.
Yeah, that actually segues very well into our last little talking point. What are your top tips for longevity? I think we've kind of covered a lot of it, but if we just highlight sort of some of your top tips for longevity, really probably based around the way you move and your body and what you're doing to maintain your body to play the drums.
Well, what was your quote? You know your body best. That was your quote?
Yeah.
I think That's number one, man. Everybody
Listen
knows
to your body.
everybody. Listen to your body.
Yep.
That's what I reckon. My top tip for everyone out there is.
Yep.
I thoroughly can't, just based on where I am in my life. Maybe if we did this interview in a year's time, I might have a different answer. But my answer for
Of
you right
course.
now: look at what you actually don't need to be doing too much of. Perhaps that extra
Hmm.
stretching is hurting. Perhaps doing 200 bicep curls before you go and do blast beats is actually making it harder for you. All
Yeah.
of these things. Focus on things that actually are taking away from making it. You're making it harder for yourself. Taking away the ease of the drumming experience, which, as basic as it is, it should be fun. And I feel like every time it is fun, it's always a lot better than when you're trying really hard. So have fun.
Yeah.
Don't try
Yeah.
too hard. See what less you
That's
can
it.
do.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you want to do. I know plenty of drummers that are into sort of bodybuilding, and they're probably doing all the right things for it. But myself, I certainly try not to do too much stuff which is going to cause me sort of delayed onset muscle soreness the following day,
Yeah,
especially if I need to play drums. I don't. I'm
especially.
not trying to. I'm not trying to bodybuild. I'm not trying to get. I just want to maintain what I have. I mean, so I sort of lift very similar weights, and I'll increase sometimes, but then I'll decrease and go back to the very bare minimum again.
Yeah,
Um, so that's sort of what I do.
yeah,
But yeah, definitely. That's a good tip. Just listen to your body. Just watch what you're doing. Really, like
yeah.
is a certain is it? Do you feel tired every time you eat a steak? Like I do.
Hey,
So
the big
my
one.
body absorbs iron more, and then to excessive iron makes you tired. And so I'll eat a steak maybe once every couple of months, but if I mostly eat chicken for my protein, I'll take a protein supplement, which does have all your branch chain amino acids and your creatines, and I'll take magnesium for my muscles and zinc. It's really a case of working out what works for you, because everyone is different. We are all very unique.
Totally.
As much as we're all the same, we are all very different and unique, and we all need different things to perform at our
Yeah.
best. So
Oh, yeah, definitely.
yeah, yeah,
Definitely. Incorporating that for sure. Fuck yeah.
yeah. Well, this has been a really great chat. Now we're probably going to wrap it up shortly. I did want to just mention for anyone in the USA and Canada listening to this, you can catch Anthony on tour with Blindfolded and Led to the Woods. It's kicking off on the 8th of November in Philadelphia, and you're doing quite an extensive run there. I did see that you're playing in my old stomping ground of Toronto.
Cool.
Yeah, I saw that. That'll be cool. I've got a few mates there that I might send out, and also
Love
just a
that.
decent little run. I saw a few shows there in Texas and sort of down the East Coast.
Yeah. No, I'm very excited for that. I'm super excited. This will be my first tour of the United States of America and Canada as well. I'm very, very keen. I've got some family there who I'm gonna obviously invite out to the show, so it will be a good reunion as well.
Yep.
Um, but to be quite honest with you, you know what I'm really keen for? I'm really keen to go out there and fucking suffer on the road and be like having a rough time, having a late night, waking up, being sore because, I think in my little world here in, Adelaide, South Australia, it's perfect. I get to
Yeah.
go play go play my drums. I've had enough of drumming. I can go have my banana and my Yakult and my Milo bar and my magnesium tablet and get back in for the next round when I'm comfortable. And I'm looking forward to that, that life on the road and just,
Living in a van with a
yeah,
bunch of sweaty men.
bunch of
Um,
stinky dudes.
Now, what I personally found is I used to just treat myself quite rough, but when I really turned everything around, it was 2016. I did a massive health kick, and it was like I can't be going into a service station at night and eating pizza. And that's where I really changed it around. So I did have my supplements and my proteins, and I'll eat a banana if there's nothing if there's only greasy shit in the food places, I'm not going to eat it. I'll have a protein shake.
Yeah,
So that was just some little things, and obviously staying hydrated, like you mentioned before, really
that's key.
important. So yeah, and I didn't used to get hangovers until I was probably in my 30s, and then they got so bad that I basically stopped drinking. But being hungover in a van fucking sucks.
Yeah.
So
Look,
yeah, this,
I'm not much of a drinker at all, and I have done a lot of my partying. When I say I'm keen to go and rough it, I mean more so that my creature comforts. I'm
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
keen to
yeah.
maintain, the best, mental posture and the best diet as I possibly can. Hey, there's gonna be a couple slices of pizza in
Of
NYC. What are you gonna
course,
do? What are you gonna do? But
you got it. Are
I'm
you going to
I'm just
Chicago?
yeah, I
Did,
believe there's a show in Chicago. Yes,
if you playing, you got to get a Chicago deep dish pizza.
it's already.
It's
Believe me, I'm traveling
it's
with
something
three.
else.
Oh, not three. Sorry, five other hungry men. We're getting a deep. We're getting one.
Yeah, get one each.
I
maybe
think that,
maybe after you play though, because you might be a little bit sluggish after that. I'll tell you that much.
and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yep, it'll be
Yeah,
fantastic. Um, anything you want to plug? Do you want to plug your drum companies? I know you're with Sonor. We're very mutual here. Obviously, I have mine, but I'd like you to plug anything you'd like to plug.
no, thank you so much, man. Well, first and foremost, man, yeah, no, I'm really grateful for my endorsees, Meinl, Australia or Europe, whatever. Meinl, Sonar, Evans, Trick. That's the Meinl sticks as well, and perhaps a potential mutual friend of ours, Chris Thalemko of Precision Kicks down in
Oh
Melbourne. He
yeah,
makes the triggers for me. So
amazing.
shout out to him too. He's a legend. And
He
I'm so
is.
grateful for all of my endorsements. Obviously, got to plug my boys in the band. I'm so grateful for Blindfolded and Into the Woods and the whole collaboration we've got, working together as a team. It's
Yep.
awesome. And Prosthetic Records for, signing us. I'm very excited for our next second release on the label that's going to feature some of my hardest work yet, and I'm really keen to relearn all those parts because I went all out, so much so that I didn't even want to look at them after the album was recorded. So I'm even
Yep.
keen to blow my own mind, and I hope I blow your mind too as well.
I will definitely give it a listen. I actually missed when you guys toured Oz last year. I worked nights and I just couldn't get the night off. But you guys played in Brizzy, and I was like pretty keen for the show because my mate Anthony brought the band over and organised the
Bloody
tour.
legend, your mate, what a
Yeah,
guy,
your mate.
my mate.
Yeah, I was actually keen, so I actually really gave all the material on Spotify by Blindfolded and Led to the Woods a good flogging,
Yeah.
and then ended up missing the show. But yeah,
We'll
anyway,
definitely come back around for you, man. We want to come back and do Aussie for sure. Maybe, who knows, might even see you on the road. That'd be awesome, man. When is your next show coming up?
November. I'll probably be in Adelaide when you're in America.
Yeah, and that's how it seems to
Yep.
be with all my friends at the moment. What's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What's the show? What's the lineup? You've had some. The last lineup I saw was Pantera and Lamb of God. Like, is that? It's not even real. That's
Yeah.
like
that was
alternate
some
universe shit.
that was some US stuff, and then we actually played in Adelaide with Pantera at the start of the year.
Oh,
But now we're
sorry, I
doing a
was
little
there. I was there, dude.
right. Yeah, oh, damn.
Sorry, I
But
forgot.
actually, we're doing a run, King Parrot, and we're bringing our mates Weed Eater out, and also
Oh,
with the legends in Chuff and Astro Death. So we're doing a little run. It's called When the Weed Meets the Speed. So that's what we're doing in November, just across Australia. So we're hitting all the capitals and sort of a couple of the bigger regionals like your Newcastles,
yeah.
your Canberra, some like Bendigo, Geelong,
Awesome.
all that sort of stuff.
Fuck
So
yeah.
that'll be great. That'll be great.
Awesome,
Um,
bro.
yeah. Well, hey, thanks so much for giving me a bit of your time today. This has been a really great chat.
Thanks for the
Hopefully,
opportunity, man.
no, I really appreciate it. It's been excellent talking shop, and I'm sure that at some point we'll cross paths in person and talk some more shop.
Definitely, man. I look forward to it. And once again, thank you for having me on the show.
No worries. Thanks so much for being part of it.
Cheers, brother. Thank you.